it's Gabby Dunn, the other half of this channel. I have a podcast called Bad with Money. It's about finances and feelings where we don't talk down to you. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about the very controversial FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early. People have a lot of different opinions about it. We have two great guests. One is Tanya Hester, who is described as the matriarch of the FIRE movement, and another guest called Michelle Jackson, who wrote a really interesting Business Insider article about why she decided to leave the FIRE movement and why she goes for something called Slow FIRE now. So here's a clip from the episode, and then you can listen to the entire thing at the link in the description. Okay, bye!
What is FIRE?
Oh gosh. I'm going to give you the honest answer that I feel in my heart. Technically FIRE is financial independence, retire early, but I think the truth is that it's a whole bunch of rich tech dudes who are overpaid and are saving at a high rate so that they can, quit their jobs and be really bored all the time. I don't think that the way most people
spicy takes.
I don't think the way most people talk about it is as well thought out as it should be for such a huge life choice,
What do you mean? Because FIRE started and it was like, obviously it's got a catchy name and it's like, this big thing. And I think it's spread like beyond the tech bros in some way. Although this is just my spicy take, is that I've never read about someone who's achieved FIRE who wasn't at least like 15% annoying. So like... So like what is like the thing now? Like what is it like? It caught on, then it had backlash. Like what is the deal with it right now?
I think it's really fractured. I recently wrote a post on my blog, Our Next Life, about how I think it's time to split it up, because I think that there's the segment of it that's more the tech bro side that is very happy getting ahead under capitalism at the expense of other people. Mm-hmm. They are very happy, or seem to be, doing not much, honestly, after they quit. I think a lot of them are unhappy but don't want to say so because they've kind of pinned their identity on quitting their job. And then there's the other side of it. That's those of us who, I'm allowed to swear here, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
There's the other side that is people who give a shit about the planet and give a shit about other people and want to actually do something. And it's why, honestly, I don't really love talking that much about FIRE anymore, because to me it was a means to an end. It was like, I know I have this huge mobility challenge coming. I'm going to be facing chronic pain forever. I want to be able to do some stuff before I'm like stuck on the couch. And so once I got there, then it was like, okay, it was cool to share the journey, but now let's talk about stuff that actually matters, if that makes sense. I'm all for the liberation of workers who are underpaid and undervalued by corporate America, corporate Western society. And I'm very happy to fight for that. But, for me, it was sort of like, okay, well, we got there. So can we stop talking about it now and talk about how we really try to address the climate crisis and address inequality and social injustices? And I think that there's a big chunk of the community that wants that. And so to me, I just think, like, why pretend like we're all in the same club and after the same thing? Because I don't think we are.
Why are people so nervous about retirement? Like, that word, I feel like, makes people so nervous.
I think there are a lot of reasons. I think if you go back, 5, 6, 10 years, there's definitely been a feeling of, okay, look at even young Gen X, but even some older Gen X, but certainly millennials, the Gen Zs who are in the workforce now. There's a feeling like there's no safety net for me if I can't earn enough to save, or I can't get a big enough Social Security check, which every few years we get a headline like the recent one that Social Security is 15 years away from the brink of death. We've heard that headline plenty of times before. I urge people not to freak out. But there's a feeling that, there's no backstop. And so I think that's been there. And I do think that those of us in FIRE world who care about others see really the whole thing as not this like hoarding of wealth for wealth's sake, but more providing our own safety net so that we can fight for things that matter.
What is FIRE?
So FIRE, first and foremost, FIRE actually is a legitimate thing. FIRE is financial independence, retire early. Basically, for the listeners who are like, what's FIRE? It's all of those articles that are like, I was 32 and I retired with $2 million.
Yes.
Or, this accelerated path to retirement. I have several friends who've fired, if you will, and like a number of friends who've done it. It is a real thing, and I hate that I just stuttered. Hopefully, we can just edit that out. But there are some issues with fire that I feel we really don't have enough conversation around. Ironically, at the time that we're recording this, I just came back from a lovely and wonderful event called Campfire, which is for people interested in the fire space. And I gave a talk called Tomorrow Isn't Promised. And the context of this talk is that slow fire instead of regular fire is actually the more ideal approach. It's more accessible to more people. And I need to kind of roll back and talk about fire a little more. So the idea again is you're accelerating your retirement. For some people, that retirement number could be $660,000, like Rashida Jones, I believe is her last name. I could be wrong about her last name. She runs a site called Sheeta's on the Loose. There are a lot of people who've really accelerated their retirement, but maybe they're looking at retiring in other countries. But there are a couple issues with accelerated retirement that have nothing to do with the dollars on the surface. One, it seems like a lot of people are making some assumptions subconsciously about what's going to happen between when they start like really aggressively working towards their end goal and when they actually arrive at the end, right? So say for example, Gabby, can I ask how old you are? Is this a known thing or not?
Yeah, I'm 33.
Okay, so you're 33 and you're like, I'm gonna fire in like 7 years. We're gonna keep it simple. And so I'm gonna fire by the age of 40. It's gonna be great. And I'm like, that's awesome. But then I wonder like who's in your life that might impact your money? A partner, a spouse. You may or may not have kids right now, but maybe you do. Like somehow you pick some up by then. Maybe something happens with your family and you become the financial caregiver. There are just a lot of scenarios that I think fire people don't have candid conversations around. And that will really derail their R in fire. The other thing is we don't exist alone, hopefully. Right? Hopefully we're part of a community. So that goes back to this idea that you're planning all these things and maybe you're like for 7 years you're eating ramen and it's like, but it's only 7 years. But I'm like, it's only 7 years. Who knew that for the last 2.5, practically starting on 3, we'd be in a pandemic. Like there's a lot of things that are really out of our control. And I think that for a lot of fire folks, they're trying to control for everything, but it's really clear that they haven't thought of everything.